Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Misa Mike Albertin, and who is Misa with me tonight?
Peter, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Bingham-Pankratz, the author of The Fifth Civilization.
And I'm Kerry Carusetta on Twitch, Keroseta, and I move for a vote of no confidence in Chancellor McCarthy.
We are here to talk about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, directed by George Lucas.
I would say that joke. Right. I would say that joke wouldn't be timely when this episode airs, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
This is being recorded on January 6, 2023. This will be released in early February, but there's a chance. It will
Right.
Insurrection Day. Everybody celebrate Insurrection Day. Does everyone observe?
Some people are.
Yes, I stormed my local capital this morning.
They're actually holding in my town. They're holding a prayer vigil for the victims, the political prisoners of the January 6th tomorrow.
I like how people that died during it.
No. The people that did the killing. The Republican Party in my town is having a prayer vigil at our fairgrounds for it.
Want to say what state you live in?
I live in Texas. I live in the biggest conservative city in Texas.
I mean, I don't care what crime you do. If you go into a place that's a government facility and you go and show your face around and put it on pictures and then post those pictures on the internet, whatever the fuck happens to you at that point, that's your own damn fault.
I don't know, Mike. Only Sith deal in absolutes.
I don't care what universe you're from. That's a stupid idea.
When the riots happened here in Minnesota in 2020, and the guy
y'all had that.
They burned down the police station. The reason they caught the dumbass one of the dumbasses that did it, he went to work, bragged about it, got fired from his job, and they went to his house, so they sent the police after him. He had memorabilia that only could be from the police station in his house.
Well, yes.
Oh, I mean, you gotta take souvenirs.
I mean, sure, you can, but then you don't open your fucking mouth. I mean, if you're gonna commit a crime, I don't care what crime you're committing, it's not a good idea to, look at serial killers, for example. A lot of them, you have to take trophies, but some of them go for years because they don't say anything until they're stupid.
Oh, I'm sorry I derailed us into the real world.
That's okay.
You got to take your time slowly over a long period of time. You manipulate the powers, and then start your army, and then start a clone war, and then
fake your death.
Fake your death. Exactly. That's how you really get away with the crime.
And then 80 years later, your clone will raise an army of Star Destroyers out of the ground, and
somehow.
I'm gonna be worried when I get back to that, because I'm gonna try to watch that movie for the first time since theaters this year, if we can do it. Is my plan.
Well, that'll be very.
And I'm really scared because I love Rise of Skywalker. I cried in that theater, and it was happy tears, and I'm worried that they will not be happy tears when I rewatch it.
That was the last movie I saw before COVID.
Yes, it was mine as well. Yes.
Thankfully, during that brief moment when we thought COVID was over, I saw Black Widow, and that was, better. Yes. Not great, but.
Scarlett Johansson, I'm a sucker for it, so I'm already.
I'm a sucker for Florence Pugh. She was amazing in that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of amazing actresses, Natalie Portman's in this movie.
Yeah, I think that is what everyone says. She's an amazing actress, and I don't doubt it. But I'm trying to think of a movie I've seen her in where I thought she was really great, other than Black Swan.
Not this movie.
Well,
definitely not these movies.
The Leon the Professional. I mean, she was a young kid.
Yeah, I mean, she's good in that. She's like 11 or 12, 14.
Right. I mean, that was a powerful.
V for Vendetta.
Yeah, all right.
She does a really good job in that. That movie's fucking just good movie, but whew.
I think Black Swan should win an Oscar for her, right?
She should have. Black Swan is really good.
I think Annihilation is supposed to be good with her.
Annihilation! Annihilation's amazing. All right, I take back everything I said. Yeah, she's amazing in Annihilation. Annihilation is an incredible movie.
I haven't seen enough of her movies.
Yeah. With many actors, sometimes the material you have to work with kind of determines what people think of you. And this movie is the material. It takes a good actor.
It was written on a legal pad over the course of a weekend.
Right. He started with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then said, "What if we talked about trade disputes?"
So I just have to say, I have been on the hating that I've gone through a whole evolution on these movies. I think I'm older than Mike. I'm gonna be 40 in a couple of months.
Yeah, you're older than me too.
Yeah. So this movie came out. I know exactly when it came out because I was working at Target. It was my junior year of high school. I was 16, and I was working at Target when this movie came out. I was the toy guy, and I saw this movie in the theater. I absolutely loved it. I saw it twice in the theater, which is something I never do. I loved it when I was 16 years old. I have, to my right, purchased from Target when I worked there, 2 different statues of Darth Maul, including one that I hand painted. I love this movie. And then over time, I got out of college and I started going, oh man, I don't know, this movie's not as good as I remember it being. Every time I watched it, I liked it less and less. And then, we all, I think, hit that point probably around the time the Red Letter Media Phantom Menace video came out. Everyone really turned on it hard, and including me, and I hated it for years. And then the Disney sequels came, and I was like, I don't know, maybe Phantom Menace isn't that bad. I haven't seen it in a long time though. And I actually have not seen this movie I've watched little bits and pieces, but I haven't seen the whole movie all the way through in about 12 years, maybe 15 years. About 15 years. And I watched it yesterday and today, and I came really going, it's not that bad.
No, it's middle.
It's middle.
It's the best of the prequels.
Oh, it's definitely the best of the prequels. Even people have I think young people have had a referendum and decided to retroactively pretend that episode 3 is good. It's terrible. Episode 3 it's not as bad as episode 2, but it's very bad.
It's a good movie if you watch the Clone Wars and think that was already written before and it wasn't. Then it's a good movie.
It's got fan service even then, it's not a good movie. It's not good storytelling. You have a 35-minute lightsaber duel. It's dumb.
We'll get there. I take the position that it is indeed. I think Phantom Menace is a very fun movie, and I had a good time watching it. I don't think it's a good movie in any sense of the.
Oh, Phantom Menace. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying
right.
I played Marvel Snap while watching it.
Right.
And I put down Marvel Snap for a couple of scenes, and I came away from it going, and I spread it out over 2 days, and I was like, yeah, not bad, not good, not bad. I put it I kind of came up with a ranking, and it came up 7 and that's out of 11 movies. I mean, 7 out of 11 isn't bad. It's better than Book of Boba Fett. It's better than it's probably on par with Obi-Wan.
I mean, I'd hate to say it, but yeah, it does have compared to Obi-Wan, it has more interesting set pieces, more interesting duels, and more interesting actors.
Better choreographed action.
Right. I mean, that's part of it. You get a movie budget, but still, some of these actors are really hamming it up, and they're really good. And it helps that you've got some people in there who are taking it seriously, and some people who are not taking it seriously.
Yeah,
I still love the beginning of this movie. I love all this stuff when they get to the ship.
Yeah,
it's also funny. They're like, negotiation. He's like, the negotiations will be short, and then later on, Obi-Wan's like, you were right, they were short. I'm like,
I'm trying to pinpoint when it goes wrong and when it went wrong for me in the theater, because I remember leaving the theater being excited but still kind of empty, being like, I wanted something more.
And you were like 12.
Yeah, too. I was basically 12, and I knew
you're
even
more
then,
mature moviegoer than me when I was 16.
Well, yes, I was not leaving the theater bouncing. I did see it multiple times. I think I'd probably see it the most times in theaters. But again, it was more of because that's what everyone was doing at that time. Everyone's like, let's go see Star Wars again. So we did.
I bought the special collector's edition on VHS that came with a film. What do you call it? A frame.
Yeah.
Like a frame cell? I don't know what.
Yeah, it had a little cell. I remember that. Yeah. It was a big big deluxe box set, and it had a cell and a booklet with a Naboo starfighter on it or something.
Yeah, it had a booklet of concept art that had a Naboo starfighter on the cover. Yeah. I ended up throwing that away. I
can tell you for certain it's not going to be valuable.
No, it's not. I have so much Star Wars memorabilia from when I worked at Target, and I started pricing it a few years ago, and I was like, all right, so this Darth Vader I've got is worth $15, and this Darth Maul is worth $15, and everything else is worth less than what I paid for it in 1999. So I just gave them to my son when he was 6 and let him open them and play with them. And these aren't going to sit because I had them in a sealed container. I had them in a Rubbermaid container for 20 years.
Yeah.
None of it's worth anything. But I do really like my Darth Maul statues. They're really cool. Darth Maul is like a really fun action character. You know,
he's
Darth Maul is the face that sold this movie, really.
Yeah, really. And him and that man, that double-bladed lightsaber. And whenever even when he's using only one blade, it's like an actual katana, the way he's holding it and stuff. And which doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's still cool. And it's well choreographed. You've got the guy that plays him, Ray Park Jr. Possibly a sex criminal, maybe or not, but definitely good at his job.
Oh, that he's not a good enough.
He's been canceled, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, he's been accused of sexual assault by some female stunt women, I believe.
Oh.
But no
arrest
or anything.
I never met him, but I saw him. He was at a convention. But I didn't pay to go meet him because I didn't care. But he did go out behind his booth and did like the sword thing and flipped around a lightsaber and looked all cool.
That's
very cool. Yeah.
So
it's cool. In my martial art that I do, we have at the advanced level that I've reached, we have staff fighting. One of the black belts, he has a double-bladed, like a Darth Maul lightsaber, like a really nice one. And whenever we have like a free day up at the dojo, he brings it and like just bust out like Darth Maul style. It's pretty awesome, actually.
No, the Darth Maul stuff is so good in this movie. Like that final fight.
It's a lot of fun.
I know we're jumping ahead, but that's fine. That final fight with the music and everything, that is...
I bought the soundtrack to this movie. I had the CD I still have the soundtrack. I had the CD in my car for years.
Yeah.
That scene is just... Wow. I mean, I remember as a kid, I didn't understand, like, why the fuck is this generator in the castle? But I know it's explained later on, or I know now. I forget what the reasoning is, but like,
it's some very forced explanation. I mean, the reason was let's have a cool pit where they can fight over. But,
yeah.
But you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice something. There's something about it that always bugs me, and that's when he and Qui-Gon are fighting, and Obi-Wan has to stand behind the force field and watch. The emitter for that force field is clearly unprotected. He could easily just hit the emitter and just, I assume. I don't know, maybe not, but it's certainly...
This for a video game, you could just slice through that and you'd be set. So.
Yeah.
There are video games of this. How many video games are made from about this movie at that time?
I had the official PC game of this movie on my Compaq back in 1999, and I couldn't get past the first level, which was them being on the ship and having to escape the room with the gas, and then the droidecas would always kill me. But,
okay, you are right. I'm looking at that scene now. The emitters are not covered by the force field because they come from the emitters and hit the other emitter. He could flash at the metal piece and deactivate it. He still wouldn't get there in time, most likely.
Oh, I think he would. He stands there.
I think it would be instantaneous. It would just collapse and then...
Yeah, and then he'd run in there, and then Darth Maul's got to fight two people again. I don't know.
But then you wouldn't get the
cool there's some cool little moments there. There's one that I always notice is before they're at that part, when they're up on like the catwalks and they're fighting, there's a point where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon both go into attack, and in the middle of the attack, Obi-Wan all of a sudden jerks backward and goes, oh, like that, but nothing hits him. And I assume the idea is that Darth Maul just just popped him with the Force to get him out of the way or something. Either that or it's a mistake. But I rewound and watched it like 5 times. And I was like, yeah, no, he just like goes to attack and then grunts in pain and jerks backward like he hurt himself.
I wonder if it was a mistake and they just kept it.
Or if he might have gotten hit by the actual like little staff that Ray Park was using. Might have like popped him in the knee or something on accident. I don't know.
But it's just such a good scene. It's a famous scene, and I know that one that talks about it is that like Obi-Wan is one of the strongest Jedis out of all of them at this time.
Oh, really?
That's one of the rumors because like, or not rumors, but like the fan theories.
It's a fan theory. That's not
because he beats Darth Maul. He beats, in Clone Wars, he's one of the few. Like he just does so much stuff throughout this that that Palpatine knew how powerful he was.
Yeah. Maybe I'm always a fan. I'm always a fan of I'm not usually a fan of the idea of like, oh, well, the reason this character is able to do all this stuff is because he's the most powerful. I like the idea that Obi-Wan's just awesome. He's smart and resourceful. He's smart and resourceful and tactical. Because that's how he beats General Grievous. Is like through cunning, not through like the Force.
I can't wait to talk about that part.
He's clearly very skilled at what he does. So he's up there in the top tier of Jedi, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
And like when he kills Darth Maul, like he doesn't have the high ground, but he still jumps over him.
That's true.
But I guess it's more of Darth Maul is just overconfident and wasn't really. I don't think he was trained super well either. because he really should have been able to kill him when he jumps over him. Like,
well, he was
right
just surprised. Yeah, he was just completely shocked.
Yeah.
He's like, "What?" But yeah. Oh, yeah, we can go back to the beginning though. So they're on the ship, and
Right.
This is what I would say about this is we definitely got to address the elephant in the room, which is the ridiculous racism in this movie, and it starts right at the beginning of the movie in the first scene.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem, and if it happened once, it might be more excusable. But there's at least 3 big stereotypes in this movie. There's Nemoidians, which are they sound very much like an Asian.
Yeah, they're very much supposed to be Japanese, and it's really bad.
Oh, I did not catch that.
It's really bad. Oh no, Come on. Yeah, it's very bad.
I also watched this kind of muted. So
well,
I'm not gonna do it, but they have like cartoon, like 1970s racist cartoon Japanese accents.
I mean,
it's very bad. All of them do.
I had sound for here and there, but like I would sometimes watch it muted and just have it on while I was working and just there. So and I'd look and I just could see it while I'm doing other things.
Yeah,
they might as well have buck teeth and like Tojo glasses on.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's very they did everything except for call the Jedi most honorable or something. Like it's really bad. They're straight out of like a Popeye cartoon from the 1940s.
Yeah.
And then
that's shitty.
Of course, Watto is like super Middle Eastern.
Yeah, Middle Eastern or Jewish stereotype. He has a big nose and he's a traitor.
Very much. Yeah, Middle Eastern Jew. Yeah, very much.
Wasn't this movie pretty much all George Lucas too? Like the prequel?
Oh yeah, he wrote it on a legal pad in one weekend. They show it in the behind the scenes for the movie, like the behind the scenes, like on the DVD and stuff has him like literally writing the script on a legal pad.
Right.
I mean, I never wrote a movie, but I'm assuming, Peter, you can tell me this, like writing a book, I'm sure you didn't just go with the first draft you wrote, like you changed things and had other people look at it.
Well, yes. You don't usually go with the first draft. However, I'm not a multi-millionaire / probably at this point, probably a billionaire.
Oh, definitely.
This movie's terrible. I mean, I enjoy him, but the writing is terrible, the prequel stuff.
From what I know of reading about the backstory, there were some drafts, of it, but like the input was almost all from George Lucas. There wasn't anybody. The other movies had multiple writers. I think Empire Strikes Back had 3 writers, I believe.
Yes.
And so this is just George Lucas.
Exactly.
Is credited just the first one. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and the thing is Lucas was edited severely on those original trilogy by his wife, who I believe he was divorced from by the time they made this movie. And
yeah.
this one is not edited by his wife, right?
Right.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, it definitely isn't. I don't know who edits it. And
she's largely credited with being like an important editor for him in his other movies.
Well, you need people that are going to tell you no or tell you something stupid, or you need people like that. No matter what creative project you make, you need other people than just yourself.
And that's one of the things the Red Letter Media video points out is like if you look at the behind the scenes, he just keeps showing people stuff and saying things, and everyone's just like nodding and smiling. Because he like surrounded himself with a bunch of like adoring Star Wars nerds.
Right.
And
this movie, the studio was not going to push back because this movie was going to make money regardless. So 20th Century Fox just said, okay, you just do whatever you want.
Well, didn't he finance this? Like, isn't this the most successful indie movie of all time? Or am I thinking
I've heard that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that
I might be thinking of Empire Strikes Back, but I know one of the Star Wars movies he just self-financed, and it's the most successful indie movie of all time because of that.
Yeah, regardless,
I thought it was.
He did not have pushback anyway.
Yeah, he had no pushback exactly, and so he just did what he wanted. And so the Nemoidians are incredibly racist stereotypes. It's really bad, and it's in the first scene of the movie. And it doesn't let up. It doesn't let up for the whole movie. Anytime they're there, they are the most cringe-inducing stereotypes. I mean, it's really bad. It's a literal hate crime. And then Watto is equally bad. And then what is the third one? Is it the Gungans?
Well, I was going to say the Gungans / Jar Jar. Jar Jar is kind of doing a Creole Jamaican thing, which a lot of people say. And I mean, the Gungans are I think they're supposed to be any generic native tribe they come across probably is more African than anything.
Oh
yeah. Definitely. And that I don't think is a problem if it's not stereotyped and it's not made fun of. Whereas Watto, it's very much meant to be like, look at this greedy Jew. And the Nemoidians is very much, look at these shifty-eyed Asian, imperialist.
And the helmet they're wearing, like the other guys that are operating, like the goggles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Because I'm watching a video right now of it. You are right. That does really remind me of like the Japanese propaganda from World War II stuff.
It's bad.
Yeah,
I love in the red letter media. Every time they show that secretary with the stuff on her face, he goes, "What's wrong with your face?" That was like a thing me and my friends would say to each other. "What's wrong with your face?"
Yes, I remember those videos. Well, the pizza rolls.
I love those videos. I haven't watched them in a while, but I watched them more recently than I watched this. But
I think they're very cringy. If you watch them again, I would cringe at.
Oh yeah,
a lot of it
probably would.
But 12 years ago, it was the most hilarious thing ever.
And it felt so insightful. The one that he does for Star Trek Insurrection is also.
Oh, those are gold.
Those are gold. The Star Trek ones are really good. The Avatar one also. It's like, you didn't notice that, but your brain did. But anyway, yeah, Red Letter Media. I like Red Letter Media. I watch their current stuff, which is like where they just like review movies like without the craziness, without the crazy characters. They just sit there and talk about movies, and I like it a lot. It's called Half in the Bag. It's called Half in the Bag. And they start off everyone with like a little 3-minute skit as characters, and then the rest of it's just them talking, like podcasting, basically. It's good stuff.
Which is better. But one thing, I really like the beginning of this movie when they're on the ship. I think all that stuff is like, I enjoy it. I enjoy the fact they try to gas the Jedi and that they're being manipulated by Palpatine. As you don't know it's Palpatine, you just know it's some guy in a cloak. But
except we all knew it was Palpatine.
I did not. Okay, I have a funny story. I don't know if Peter remembers this. I'm pretty sure he's the one I told. When I first saw this movie, I saw it in theaters or I saw it wherever. And I remember I was looking at toys and I'm like, Palpatine, that's the same name as the Emperor. And that's when it clicked for me. 12-year-old brain was like, oh, that's the same guy. Like it didn't click.
Yeah, I forgot that you were a child. Okay, that's okay.
That's
so funny.
I was a little bit more savvy in that I knew like I knew his name was Palpatine, and I was like, oh, that's Palpatine. It's the same actor under the cloak.
Yeah.
Sidious. Because he talks in the same voice, so it's like, okay.
He talks in the same voice. He looks the same. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the Phantom Menace. Plus, I'll get to my favorite shot later, but it's they don't spell it out in this movie, which is fine. But
yeah, if you've never seen Star Wars before, then you don't know for sure what's up with Palpatine.
I had at the time, but I don't I was not big into it. Peter was big into it when we were kids. I was not. I don't think.
Right.
I think one of the failures of this movie is that you do kind of have to know a lot of the Star Wars lore to go into it. And I guess it being a prequel, it's not that big an issue. And the fact that it made, millions upon millions of dollars is not an issue. But if you're watching it just blindly, like I can see it being confusing, or you'd be like, why do I care? Why should I care about these people? Like if you watch it as the first Star Wars movie, you're going to be.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't know because I can't really even imagine that.
No.
I can't
It's not possible for us. It's not possible.
No, I know.
No, for a lot of people it was.
Like my son, my son is 10, but his first Star Wars movie was Star Wars.
Right.
His second Star Wars movie was Empire Strikes Back, and his third was Return of the Jedi.
Right, exactly.
And his fourth Star Wars movie was Force Awakens. And I actually am not sure if he's seen the prequels. He's seen Clone Wars and enjoys Clone Wars a lot. But I don't think he's seen the prequels, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
He maybe has. I showed him Duel of the Fates.
The best part. We talked about that. Oh, no, I also was always amused. One reason I'm amused by the intro stuff, like they have the part where the ship they come in gets blown up in the Lego Star Wars game, which
and they both immediately jump up and whip out their lightsabers when it happens because they can feel it. I love that.
Yeah. I like this opening, too. I
like it a lot. And they one thing I really liked that they do in this movie, they do throughout the movie, but they set it up in the beginning. And then I don't feel like they really do it almost at all in the rest of the prequels or any Star Wars movie, really, is they show them using their force powers like the way you did in the video games. Like by this point, by the time this movie came out, I'd already played Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight. And so I had an expectation of, and I had read like a dozen Star Wars books. And I'm like, man, like Jedi, like they would be moving fast, like the Matrix almost, which I think came out the same year as us, right? 99.
Right.
Yeah. And so, they'd be moving fast like the Matrix and stuff, which they would. And then you watch this movie and they zip down when the droidecas come, they just go and they zip down the hallway at super speed. And it looks a little bad. It looks a little dated, but they need, that is what Jedi would do. And
we finally get to see Jedi doing what Jedi are, like, off the bat.
Jedi stuff. Yeah.
See him in fighting and stuff we wanted to see in this movie.
Yeah, I love the scene where they're trying to get in the bridge and they close the big doors, but the lightsaber keeps coming through, and everybody's like, "Oh no, they're still coming through." I thought that's great.
I remember when it came out, that part bothered me when I was 16, and it's dumb, but because I had just read The Courtship of Princess Leia, where Luke he's like outside, like in the desert, and he's cold, and he thinks about like it would be good if the lightsaber gave off heat because he could use it to warm himself, but lightsabers don't give off heat, according to the author of The Courtship of Princess Leia. Which, as far as I was concerned, well, that's canon. That might as well be in the Bible, right? You know. And so then he's like melting through the door, and I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense because lightsabers aren't supposed to give off heat, guys. But
I mean,
no, I love it. And no,
it's late. It
burns through cauterize the wounds.
It should burn through things. Yes, exactly. No, it does.
Even if it doesn't give off heat,
it doesn't cauterize. It doesn't necessarily cauterize wounds, though.
Oh, does
right?
No.
When Obi-Wan cuts off Ponda Baba's arm, there's no cauterization.
Oh, he had special alien blood vessels that did that. That's I just waved it away.
Is that why? Yeah, because it does cauterize Luke's wrist when Vader cuts his hand off. So, yeah.
I just made up something that Wikipedia will can fill in or whatever.
Yeah, it'll cite this podcast as a source.
Right, exactly.
Hey, I'm okay with that. I'd gladly be on Wikipedia. Make me happy. More people would find us.
Right.
I don't know. I just really like the intro stuff. I like young Obi-Wan a lot. Well, Wayne McGregor is such a good actor, I feel.
Yeah, I like him.
He does a great job. He's the best thing about these prequels.
Liam Neeson is great in it.
Yeah, he is. I didn't know the actor, actually, until this movie. This is the first movie I ever seen him in. Even when I was older, this was the first movie I knew who he was.
Is this before The Haunting on Hill House?
I think it's the same year.
I think Haunting on Hill House is after this, actually. Yeah. Because I remember seeing him in Haunting on Hill House.
He was in a couple things before this.
Or The House on Haunted Hill, not The Haunting on Hill House. Wait, no, I don't remember which one. But.
The Haunting. It was.
The Haunting was the remake of.
Owen Wilson was. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
He's a great actor. I mean, he does. Yeah. He helps.
They're both great. Yeah, I really feel like this has a lot of good actors in it.
Keira Knightley's in this. She's the fake.
Keira Knightley is in this.
Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, she is? Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the one, because I mean, the funny thing is she gets mistaken for Natalie Portman because they look kind of the same. They look different enough.
I will get to that. I was not fooled. I don't know if the audience is supposed to be fooled by the Padme Queen Amidala switch. I think they are, but I'm like, I knew Natalie Portman was in this, and I was like, oh, that's the Queen.
I knew that. I mean, I knew that Natalie Portman was. I knew who Natalie Portman was. I recognized her, and though I don't think I knew her from anything yet. I think that because I didn't see The Professional until I was in college, but I recognized her from like the and the from Jedi Insider,
right?
Star Wars Insider magazine and all that. I recognized her from that, but I didn't know that she was going to be the Queen necessarily. I was like, oh, okay. I think Padme is going to be the one that is going to be important though. She's going to be the one that is probably going to be like Leia and Luke's mom and all that. I figured that much, but I didn't guess that the Queen switch thing, and it was a fun little switch, I guess, but it also was dumb a little bit. Like, I mean, I get it, and people do that, right? Like, that was Saddam Hussein, right?
Yeah, he had a lot of body doubles.
He had body doubles and stuff, right? But it doesn't does she seem like someone who's like in constant danger from anyone other than the Trade
Federation? No, she has a peaceful planet.
It seems peaceful, right? I mean, I guess they do make the Naboo Starfighter, and that's like, that's set up in other media as being famous, right? I guess, I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem like she's someone who would need one. And then
I didn't think she had one all the time, but like when I watched this movie now and paid more attention to it over time, like, I thought they just switched later on. Like, it's not until they go to Tatooine.
It's the whole movie. The only time she's in the Queen makeup is when she goes to the Senate.
Yeah.
She's the one who goes to the Senate, and that's the only time in the movie she's in the Queen makeup until the end of the movie at the big parade at the end.
Well, isn't she when she at the beginning?
At the beginning, yeah. Yes, you're right. At the beginning, she is also.
I guess the Trade Federation, so she changes, but
bottom line is, I think it's attempted at a twist that because Qui-Gon's not fooled and Anakin doesn't care, it doesn't seem like the point. I don't know what the point of the twist was.
And by the way, I just looked, and there's several movies that Liam Neeson was in before this that I saw, but I didn't recognize him. He was in
Schindler's List.
Yeah, Schindler's List, of course. He was in The Bounty, which is a movie I liked, and it's The Bounty is about the mutiny on the Bounty,
right?
And he's in what was the other one I've seen? Rob Roy, and he's in The Deadpool.
Yeah,
and Darkman. He is Darkman in Darkman.
Never seen any of those movies.
So I had seen a few of these movies, and he had won an Oscar for Nell, or at least he was nominated. So he was famous, but yeah, I not to a 16-year-old. This is the first movie I saw him in.
Right.
And then I went and saw The Haunting because of this movie, and God, that movie was terrible. Oh, it's a bad movie.
Right. Yeah.
No, I love Natalie Portman in movies.
Natalie Portman's great.
Not because of this movie. As time went on.
I feel bad, like earlier when I was saying, like, oh, Natalie Portman, what? And then I'm looking at her movies right now, and I'm like, oh, I love a bunch of these movies she was in. Never mind.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't get the twist of the fact that like everything with her, where that they're changing character, she's a body double and everything. I didn't catch that till way later. I also didn't catch that Qui-Gon Jinn knows that Padme is Queen Amidala when they go to Tatooine, because of like the way he makes comments like, I don't care what the Queen thinks. Like, you're right. It makes sense that he does. He knows who the Queen is. He's just like, well, shit.
Yeah.
We're doing what we have to survive.
Yeah.
I also don't. One of my stupid issues, like when they're leaving the planet, when they escape on that ship, and the astromech droids go out to fix the generator, and the only one that survives is R2-D2, and then, oh, look, R2-D2. Like, I'm like, it's cool, but at the same time, I'm just like, like, it doesn't have to be all the same characters everywhere.
Yeah, the fan servicey stuff, like, bothers me more and more the older I get with these movies, and there's so much of this movie that you could cut, and I feel like you'd actually have a legitimately good movie if you cut those things.
Right.
Like,
I think
go ahead.
The number one thing that bothers me, and then we might have mentioned this before, is that Anakin built C-3PO, which I think is a horrendous plot decision.
Yeah.
I got major problem with that. When you're done, I want to say.
Yeah, we can talk about it later, but I just hated that. And that's a fan servicey thing. That's an attempt to be like, everything must be explained because it's all connected to this family. And
that's what George Lucas kept saying at the behind the scenes stuff. It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Right.
That's his thing. It's like poetry.
That's an idiotic thing for him to say.
It is. And it's just stupid. Everything about that. It's Anakin building C-3PO just introduces plot holes. Right. And it's unnecessary. You could, if you wanted to put C-3PO in it, just have him be a droid on their ship the same way R2-D2 was. The only reason, or have him be a broken, I don't know. Even then, it's just dumb, because if Anakin knows either of those droids, that introduces plot holes to the original trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just don't have them. Have some new droids. Have some new fun little droids in this movie. Like
my
BB-8.
big issue with it is stupid. They say Anakin makes a comment when he leaves. He's like, well, I hope Mom doesn't sell you. And I'm like, you're slaves. You don't own anything. You can't sell it because Watto owns it.
We don't know the situation. That may not be, because there's different kinds of slavery. Like in ancient Rome, slaves owned property and all that kind of. I mean, they seem like they own their own.
I was thinking of more of American.
Yeah. American slavery is especially brutal in the history of slavery. Yeah. Not that slavery is not always bad, but I think it's more. I think they're more like. It's like indentured servant kind of situation, only their indenture is permanent. Okay. That's the way I saw it anyway.
I'll go with it.
I did like that Watto is a little affectionate toward Anakin.
Right. Yeah.
He felt like he does like him a little bit, and might partly be why he doesn't want to get rid of him.
Yeah, there's a little tenderness there. I will say that. Yeah.
Watto's a dumbass. Well, the reason I say that, because he bets everything on the pod race in the end of this movie. He's like, I lost everything, and like, this is a guy who, like, the way that they talk about this movie, that all these people, all they do is bet. Yet, if you're a guy who gambles all the time, you're not going to bet everything you have on one race.
He didn't bet everything he had. He just bet a lot that he didn't. He bet the part that he paid
Qui-Gon needed.
Yeah, he paid the entry fee for Anakin. And then he bet, in exchange for that, if he lost, he loses the part that Qui-Gon needs.
And he bet with Sebulba that Sebulba was going to win.
Oh well, yeah, he bet. Yeah, but I don't think he's bet like all of his money, right?
Okay,
I don't know.
It sound like he did.
Does he show up in episode 2 when Anakin comes back to commit genocide?
He's very briefly shows up. Yeah.
Is he like destitute? Or he basically
is begging on the side of the road. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess maybe he did bet it all. He's got a gambling problem.
I don't know. Stupid thing. But I mean, I was just like,
Yeah, but yeah, when R2D2 shows up on the ship, it's really corny because they have all these. It's neat. They have the droids go outside the ship, magnetically attached to the ship and repair, and they're just getting smoked. Just droids getting murdered, and no one gives a shit. By the way, it's like these are obviously sentient beings. Like droids have souls. It feels like in Star Wars, unless they're not important to the human characters, in which case they're just like, oh, droid died. But anyway, but then he ends up being the one, he gets the shields back up, and like, oh my god, he did it. That little droid did it. And then they've got to have a little scene where Amidala is like, you ought to be commended. What is your number, droid?
Oh god, her voice.
To them, it's basically, a toaster that's doing this. It's like giving an award to a toaster. For most people, I would assume.
That's the thing. Yeah, and she's like,
I have a Darth Vader toaster. Does that count? I can give it an award.
And they're like, his number is R2D2, Your Highness. R2D2. You are truly a marvelous. Why does she talk like that? It's terrible.
It's a haughty. It's supposed to be a haughty accent. Like,
I hate it. I hope that was the direction she was given.
Yeah, I think I assume it had to be a Lucas decision, but because she's too, like we said, she's too good of an actress for that. I don't know, but and that's her there. You're right. That's right. That's her. Not.
But you are right. Like what you said.
Oh, no, it's not. It's Keira Knightley at that point, isn't it? Because then Padme goes and meets Anakin in the afterward. Padme is like in there, like she tucks Anakin in because he's cold. Wait, no, that's later. That's after they leave Tatooine.
It's cold in space.
No, you're right. It is Natalie Portman in that scene.
Yeah, I think most of the time you see her, it's Natalie Portman. And Keira Knightley might appear maybe toward the end. Because there are scenes where the two of them are in a shot together. And I think... Yeah,
and I noticed she looks back at Natalie Portman sometimes before she answers, which I thought was
right. It's a cool little touch.
Yeah, I think it's a cool little touch. It would have been better if it had come to anything.
Right.
In this movie. It comes to something in the second movie.
Right.
Right, when she dies.
Yeah, because they kill the clone. Or not the clone, but the decoy.
The decoy. They kill the decoy. And yeah, something like that in this movie would have helped a little bit, because otherwise it's just like, oh, what a twist. For nothing. Right?
Well, that was fun. Let's go with something. Yeah.
Yeah, she just like randomly just like stands. It's like she does it to Boss Nass. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, actually, I'm the queen, and everyone's like, what? It's like that didn't.
It didn't do.
There's no purpose to it. I didn't do anything. I mean, I guess it's to show that you're honest, but it doesn't make you look good. I guess it was just that she felt like Keira Knightley wasn't doing a good job at convincing Boss Nass to join their side, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the fan servicey stuff of R2D2 and C3PO, I guess it's there for the little kids who have seen Star Wars, presumably.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what's it there for? Right?
I mean, I'm assuming 12-year-old Mike got a kick out of it. I don't remember.
I guess maybe I did when I was 16. I don't know. I definitely have among the Star Wars figurines that I bought at that time. I got the C3PO, the wireframe C3PO.
Same. I had Watto, C3PO, Darth Maul. I had a couple of them. I was going to try to collect them, and then it didn't last long before I lost interest.
Most of I had about 30, and most of the ones I had were the Power of the Force ones that were they came out at this time. They reissued them for this movie, but they were all original trilogy mostly. The only ones from this one I have two different battle droids. One of them, which is like an off color, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's going to be expensive because it's like off color, but it's only like $7." And then I have the Darth Maul and the C3PO. I think that's it. Like those. Oh, I had not Jar Jar. No. What's his name? The captain guy that is like, "Oh, Jar Jar, you're in big doo doo now."
That idiot.
Captain Tarpals?
Tarpals.
Something like that.
Yes. Yeah, Tarpals. Yeah, I had Captain Tarpals. I think I've got Captain Tarpals actually on the shelf behind me. But I like Captain Tarpals. He's one of my. He's actually I'm actually looking right now. I have Darth Maul and Queen Amidala figurines behind me, but the Queen Amidala figurine is like a new figurine that my son got in like a gift pack.
Oh, okay.
But anyway.
I do like the stuff with the Gungans. I also like the idea that they're, because I don't think it really clicked until this watch for the show, is that they landed on the other side of the planet so they wouldn't be detected, I guess, when they invade.
Right. Yes, exactly.
I appreciated that way more than I ever did before.
Yeah, and then they have to go through the planet core. The plot
which I never understood. I do love that scene. I really enjoy them going through the water and the monsters eat each other. I mean,
it's fun.
It serves no purpose.
What's a bongo? Some sort of transportation, I hope. Just the whole scene, yeah.
But
I like it. I like their underground city. It looks pretty cool. I like the idea that Jar Jar was banished and has brought them back and is like facing execution or something. He's facing something bad for coming back, but he did it anyway, right? Heroic action by Jar Jar there.
And they never really say what it was at least in the movie.
He said that he was clumsy. That's all he says. He says, he's so clumsy. And
he was so clumsy they were going to execute him.
You're like, you're so clumsy they're executing you. He's like, I was very clumsy. Yeah, I like that. I'll be totally honest. Watching the movie this time, Jar Jar didn't actually bother me at all. I was kind of like, Jar Jar's, I can see that being funny for kids.
It doesn't bother me either in this anymore. Like, I actually don't
bothers
like
me
him.
less now than he did like 15 years ago.
I think a lot to do with who we were then, who were younger.
Yeah, I was like a 20-something, angsty 20-something who took Star Wars super seriously, and now I'm like a dad, and I'm just like, I know it's cool, it's whatever, lightsabers, Gungans, cartoon rabbit gets his tongue stuck in the electric thing.
Cartoon rabbit.
That's what they call him on the red letter media. Is they refer to him as the cartoon rabbit every time they talk about him. Cartoon rabbit the movie where the cartoon rabbit steps in the poopy.
He's definitely not the worst Sith of this movie. I think the worst Sith is the storytelling aspect.
Yeah.
And Jar Jar is, is not the thing that sinks this movie. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'd keep Jar Jar before I would keep C-3PO, R2-D2 and C-3PO in it, to be totally honest. Or especially C-3PO.
I mean,
C-3PO is just a completely extraneous to this movie.
Jar Jar was an innovative thing. He was a computer-generated character. He was... I believe the first realistic computer-generated character in a movie, so it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Before there was Gollum, there was him, and that's kind of a technical. And the design is fine. He looks like a weird rabbit. It's perfectly fine.
Like an amphibious rabbit.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he works as a brand new character to have in it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly, he didn't. I thought he was not bad in this movie. He didn't bother me. I thought he was funny most of the time. I enjoyed it.
I think it's time for rehabilitation. I mean, I really do hope that they bring him back for some Disney Plus thing, if only to be like, here's the rest of his story or whatever. Like if he shows up in The Mandalorian.
He got some stuff in Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's
some live action. I hear you. Yeah,
it's time for a live action. It's time for a 2-hour Jar Jar movie.
I mean, honestly, like I felt like
people would watch it.
I felt like the stuff in Mandalorian with Ahsoka was really forced because I honestly I know like Rosario Dawson is like a goddess and everything, but I don't think she's a great actress. And I'm not in love with her as Ahsoka. She's fine, but I don't know. I felt like it was really forced, but I felt like Jar Jar could slot into an episode of The Mandalorian and it'd be fun.
I mean, she was forced because her point was to make her own show.
Right.
That's the only reason why she's in that episode.
Which is coming in, I think, 2 weeks, 10 days, I think.
Gosh, that soon?
I saw a commercial for Disney Plus where it was like January 16th on Disney Plus, and it was a bunch of stuff, and I don't know if it's all January 16th, but Ahsoka was one of the things they flashed. It was like Ahsoka.
I mean, we got to cover it then after it's done.
I don't think it is. Actually, I don't think it's going to be January 16th necessarily because one of the things was Bad Batch Season 2, and that came out yesterday. So
yeah, now you got me Googling stuff.
Yeah, we got to watch Bad Batch Season 1 and 2 and do that. We could do it as one episode because Bad Batch Season 1 is short.
And we'll do each season as one episode. Because
right.
then it'd be easier for me to watch.
There you go.
We'll talk about that after that, because I actually was going to bring that up to you about doing that soon.
Yeah, Bad Batch I love Bad Batch Season 1. It's really good.
Okay. Well, another thing I want to mention about this movie that I like the Tatooine stuff. I know, again, it's fan service. They go to Tatooine, the same planet where, I remember like...
It didn't bother me because they actually filmed it on Tatooine. I mean, on Tunisia. They filmed it in the same place in Tunisia that they filmed, not exactly the exact same place, but around the same place.
Right.
I remember I had the Star Wars Insider magazine in like 1996, and it had behind the scenes like photography of them like scouting the locations for the prequel movie.
I really like all that. I mean, I remember there being posters when I was a kid when this was coming out of like Anakin walking in the sand in the background with the shadow.
The shadow was Vader, against the I had that poster. Actually.
One of people's complaints with this, like Jake Lloyd does fine. I know a lot of people give him shit, and I know he got I think his life did not go well after this movie.
Oh, yeah. He was bullied so bad and he became like a drug addict and had a really hard time. I think he does fine for a child actor, but I very rarely like child actors. And yeah, I really did not like him in this, but I don't blame him. He's a child, you know?
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I'm going to say, you know, I kind of cringe at his performance. I
cringe at every line he delivers.
Are you an angel?
Right.
I honestly think every line he delivers in this movie is very bad.
Right.
I don't blame him because he's a child, but
I blame the script writer. That's who I blame.
Well, and the director, but honestly, he's probably just wasn't a good actor because he was 8 or whatever, you know.
Yeah, he was in Jingle All the Way, and I believe that's how he got chosen for this role.
Because George Lucas probably watched Jingle All the Way with his kid. Right. It was like, ooh, I should be my new Anakin. I don't know. I think there's like another fan video. It's not made by Regular Media, where they suggested things you could do to fix these movies. And one of the suggestions was just make Anakin a teenager in the first movie. Make him an adult in the first movie. Hell, make him Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, switch the roles. And I mean, Ewan McGregor, obviously, you know, he's Scottish and Obi-Wan was, he was British, right?
Yeah, well, it doesn't really.
But I don't think it really matters. Like, you could have, you just flip it, have Qui-Gon, have Liam Neeson be Obi-Wan, and then have Ewan McGregor be Anakin, and you've got a way better trilogy already. Could you get Liam Neeson for all 3 movies? I mean, maybe they couldn't get him. I don't know. But
I think George Lucas's reasoning was that he wanted somebody that kids could relate to. But I feel like he missed the point that, you know, kids are going to go see Star Wars movies anyway. Because, you know, Luke was a teenager. But
also, why do you want kids to relate to someone that's going to become one of the worst villains in the world?
Right.
That too. I was thinking about that actually earlier because people say that, right? Like that's why they put Will Wheaton in Star Trek: The Next Generation,
right?
So that kids would be into it. I can tell you, as a kid, I didn't identify with the kids and stuff. The kids were lame. I wanted to be like the badass adults.
Right. Exactly. Right?
I never related to Wesley, and I didn't relate, and I don't think if I was 8 when this movie came out, I would have related to Jake Lloyd. I would have related to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, as a 12-year-old, I was like, I want to be Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon. I was like, those are yeah.
Exactly. As a 16-year-old, I was like, I want to be Darth Maul, but still, or Obi-Wan, right? But yeah, I didn't. I think, yeah, the idea of like, oh, throw a kid in it so the kids can relate to it. Kids will relate to it without the kids in it. They'll relate to the cool characters, right?
Like they
people
did
watch Marvel. Like kids love Marvel movies,
right?
And the actors in those, they're all adult. It's not like they're not doing Marvel movies with, you know, kid. I'm trying to think of any of the kids, you know, have like the Captain America's Bucky in the original comics where he's like 12.
Right.
They made Bucky an adult, and those movies are still popular. Like, anyway.
That's a whole. I mean, Bucky's a character from World War II, from the 1940s.
Well, yeah, I know. But I was saying, in the 1940s, Bucky was like 12, wasn't he?
Yes.
Or am I thinking of the wrong person?
No, you're right. That's why they did it. They 100% did it because they wanted it to relate to kids, so kids could be like, same thing with Robin, and that's 100% what it is.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. There is not a freaking kid on Earth that read Batman and Robin comics and like, man, I wish I could be Robin.
But that was the idea. That's
the idea, but it's a dumb idea. That's my point.
I agree.
It's a dumb.
I'm not saying it's smart.
But yeah, no, I think Jake Lloyd is, honestly, I think he's awful in these. I feel bad because he's a child and
he didn't deserve the hate he gets.
No, he doesn't deserve
it. He's an actor.
It's just a job.
Doesn't deserve any hate. No, not at all. Exactly. But it's still bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can get hating.
Those were the parts that I liked the very least, was the parts that were focused on him.
Well, I think it's hard. I think the idea of having to see this terrible villain as a child was not a good move.
Well, yeah, that too.
They just shouldn't have done that. And then, okay, some of the really dumb shit is in Tatooine, even though one of my favorite moments on Tatooine is the pod racing. But before we get that, I want to ask you guys a question. You'll know better than I will with this. I'm assuming the mitochondria stuff, that's dropped after this movie, right? Or shortly after this? Like, they don't keep that going.
They don't talk about it again.
Because it's the dumbest thing in the world. But
that is what Lucas was planning to. Lucas's plan for the sequel trilogy was for it to be about the midichlorians.
But it's so
it was going to be like midichlorian like society, like midichlorian characters living in like the subcellular, like microscopic world. Like,
God, I'm glad he wasn't involved in it after a while.
I don't know if that was his I should put this a different way. He sold Star Wars to Disney, and they told him he could still come and advise. And so he had a meeting with Dave Filoni or whoever, or Kathleen Kennedy or whatever, and said, here's what I was thinking for the next movie, and pitched this idea of like a midichlorian movie. It'd be like, Osmosis Jones with Star Wars.
They're like, that's great, George. Thanks. We'll
we're not going to. Yeah. You just go and retire now. We're good. We got this.
Like the other dumb thing with that too is like where when Anakin, he's like, well, how who's the father? And she's like, there was no father. I mean, I thought, okay, when I first saw this when I was younger, I'm like, oh yeah, she's a single mother, she raised him. But the more they point out in this movie, they're like, no, there is no father. I just wound up one day, I'm pregnant, surprise! Like,
yeah, they're going for a Jesus thing.
I know,
and that's the deal. Is like they're saying the prophecy, the one who will balance the Force will be conceived by the midichlorians.
I mean, he does balance the Force.
Yeah, that's the thing that always got me. It's like, wait a minute. What do you think balance the Force means, guys?
Right.
For hundreds of years, there have been 0 Sith, as far as you know, and a whole bunch of Jedi. And now there's 2 Sith and a whole bunch of Jedi. What do you think balance the Force could possibly mean here?
Think about that part when they did this. They're like, he's going to bring balance. Yeah, he's bringing balance. All right, buddy.
Yeah, it's easy to look at this movie through the eyes of the later sequels or whatever, when the theory was that the Jedi were very bad at what they did and the Jedi screwed it up. The Jedi caused the rise of Darth Sidious and all this stuff.
They did.
But I think there's no textual evidence in the movies that's what's going on. It's just like the Jedi are the good guys and they defeated the bad guys and they just have to wait until Palpatine takes over. But
yeah,
like I've heard a good theory, that's a fan theory, that the midichlorians was like a fringe scientific theory that they believed at the time. Like they believed that in humors or whatever, like in the old medieval days, they believed that 4 humors determined whether you're healthy or not or whatever. So at this point in history, they believe that the midichlorians make you Force powers, when maybe in reality it's more democratic than that. But
yeah, maybe, I don't know.
But it is a dumb idea. I agree.
It's really no dumber than what was going on in the books at the time. With Kevin J. Anderson, with the Jedi Academy trilogy, and they meet Kyle Katarn, and they have the little like Force tester, and Kyle Katarn touches it, and it like launches Luke across the room because Kyle Katarn is so powerful.
Yeah, it's
Kyle Katarn.
When you have a mystical Force that's just supposed to be some sort of energy Zen thing, and you try to quantify it in scientific terms, it just gets pointless because you can't really quantify anything like that in science.
Well, and I think the thing is what would always have been better is if no one is stronger or weaker in the Force necessarily. If it's about instead your training, your mental discipline, your spiritual connection, right? Yoda can do more than other people because Yoda has spent 900 years training.
Yeah.
And becoming one with the Force and becoming, in tune with his, and so Yoda is, it's like, you think about like in real life, like, like a grandmaster martial artist isn't a grandmaster because he has higher chi than I do. It's because he's been training for like 30 years or 50 years and he's dedicated his life to it. And also he is like smart and has good physical discipline. It's all that kind of stuff, and I think that's Yoda's message in Empire to Luke, right? Is size matters not, right? But Yoda doesn't say size matters not. Look at me, I'm small, you think I'm weak? No, I'm strong. He says size matters not. Look at me, think I'm weak, do you? And well, you should not, for the Force is my ally, and a powerful ally it is. He doesn't say, for I am a badass. He says, for the Force is my ally. It's the Force that's powerful, not
also my midi-chlorian count is 30,000. So
right. Imagine how stupid it would have been if he had said, but you see, even though I'm short, my midichlorian count is off the charts. There's only, I think the whole thing is so much better if you don't try to say, oh, this person's more powerful than this person, this person's more powerful than this person, and instead just say, Yoda's really good at using the Force. He's better at using the Force than anyone else.
Yeah, it's just such a dumb one. I just don't.
But the midichlorian thing is really bad. It's dumb. And the idea, and the Jesus parable stuff is stupid.
They should just had Mark Hamill come on and make up and be Luke's father, and then maybe he dies right away or something.
And what I will say is episode 3 does somewhat deal with that in a good way, actually, is Palpatine heavily implies that his master or him impregnated Shmi with the Force.
Oh yeah,
maybe or maybe not the Force. I don't know.
My guess
heavily
is
implies
raped her.
Yeah,
would be my guess.
Force.
Later forget with the Force, or maybe he did impregnate. But either way, he made it clear. He said like that we could even create life.
Yeah, right? I think it's supposed to be like the Immaculate Conception, but like Rosemary's Baby. It's like
yes, exactly.
Satan is immaculately conceiving you instead of
exactly. Oh, that is what, and I think that's better. That's better than him being space Jesus.
Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby is better.
Obi-Wan is space Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
Wayne McGregor, that's space Jesus in the third movie. I think it's the third movie, right? Is that the one that people like the joke, the meme that goes around the internet every so often?
Which one?
The one where they go like, "Oh, my grandmother thought this was Jesus," and it's Wayne McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Oh, it probably is that one. That would be that's the one where he's got the real big beard and all that.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a while. Oh, but I want to talk about pod racing. I love the fucking pod racing scenes so much. Good. I don't care how old I get, and I'm just like, well, I can't. I love it. It's great.
That was one of the things that I liked. I didn't like actually when I was 16, and I hated when I was a little older. And now I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is good. Yeah, no, it's good. It looks really cool. And honestly, you could do a movie about pod racing, and it could be pretty good actually.
Yeah, or a series or something, Days of Thunder or something.
Yeah, that was I've mentioned that before. That was a podcast I listened to that does movie criticism. That was a suggestion they had, was Days of Thunder with pod racing.
I mean, if
no Jedi, if the Force comes in, is being used by a bad guy, but have just regular people having pod racing. Could be very cool.
I really like it. I mean, I just think it's a good scene. I mean, it's some action, and you really need action in this movie at this point because nothing's been happening for hours. So you need exciting stuff to happen, and I think it really delivers that.
I do think it's well designed. I do think it may be the high point of the movie. I guess maybe after the lightsaber scene, or the lightsaber duel at the end.
I would say, other than the lightsaber duel, it's the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I think the way everybody is dispatched is always, it's everybody's dying, but it's hilarious. Everybody hits a wall, or the Tusken Raiders shoot them, or
yeah, I love that.
It's just they're just sniping, and then the announcers say, "Oh no, it looks like some Tusken Raiders are shooting at the pod." It's a good world building,
And Jabba's in here. I really like seeing Jabba in here too. I like Jabba.
No, I felt again pointless.
I know it's fan servicey, but I'm okay with it because it's a planet that he's in charge at the time. Like, I'm fine with it.
I guess.
I mean, it's not the same as like C-3PO being like, "Oh, he's built by the guy to become Vader." Like, that's a little too much, but having a mafia figure, Godfather figure, being at a gambling event on the planet that he's kind of in charge of, like, I'm okay with that. That to me, I buy just fine.
I could live with it. I don't think it was necessary either, but it's not the worst thing in this movie. So
no, it's like I also enjoy like the first part when Darth Maul shows up and he fights Qui-Gon Jinn for like a minute before they leave.
I love that because that's what I was talking about earlier, where he's using his double-bladed lightsaber with just one blade and holding it like an actual katana with the lever action and all that. I liked it a lot.
I really like Darth Maul.
Or it's like the handle's like a daikatana, where it's got like the really long hilt that they pivot. Of course, the reason they do that is because the blade is like really long and heavy, but whatever, it's fine.
Oh, and one scene that I think we've been purposely ignoring that we should talk about is throughout this movie you have a part where the whole plot of this movie is that they're trying to get Amidala because the Trade Federation invades her planet and they legally can't be there. And they care about legalities apparently, unless she signs this paper saying, yes, you can invade and kill all my people. That's fine.
And it's not invading. I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's like,
well, I know.
It's like basically submitting to the Trade Federation, occupying their planet because they're not paying the taxes they want them to pay.
But the thing that's so stupid to me about it is like, can't you just forge your signature? Can't you just get somebody else to be like,
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's, it's space. It's
but also like
sci-fi. They got like DNA signatures.
My other thing about that is like, now that I know more about this movie and know more what's going on, like with Star Wars in general, is like you realize that the whole point of what's happening is that like, I mean, Palpatine makes a comment. He's like, "Oh, they'll vote for me because they feel sorry for us." Like he's sacrificing all his own people just so he'll get a we feel bad for you vote.
Right. Yeah. I'm not clear what his plan is because it doesn't make sense. Like he's trying to kill Padme, like at various points, unless he assumes that his forces are incompetent.
So he's the senator from Naboo.
Yes.
Right.
And so presumably when the Trade Federation kills her, then presumably he's going to come in and be like, see what happened because of the Chancellor not taking action against the Trade Federation? My queen is dead. And so now I'm going to move for a vote of no confidence. So, but then he realizes once she's alive and on Coruscant, oh, this is even better because if she does it, it'll be way easier for me to kind of maneuver myself into that position.
Okay, that's a little
bit. Than if he did it himself. Sense. I think that the political stuff is actually not bad at all. It's just so long.
I mean, it's good to, like, I enjoy it now as an adult, but, like, the fact that you're selling this, I mean, people that, like, you know, are taking their kids to see this movie, they were expecting, you know, like, what Star Wars is. I mean, the first Star Wars is really just like we talked about before in that episode, it's just a, you know, a Flash Gordon story, essentially.
It's action-packed. It's action-packed. Right. And I timed it for you guys. I showed you the timestamps. It's 30 minutes between any kind of action.
Right.
And and they're doing stuff, and the stuff they're doing isn't bad, but it's a full 30 minutes between any kind of action. And that might be a little long for your, like, you know, space opera for children.
And isn't E.T., like, in the whole Senate thing when she does the vote of no confidence? I mean...
Yeah, they put E.T. Yeah, they put
Is he in this one, or is it in episode 3? He's in one of them.
It's one of the two.
I didn't look for him this time.
I didn't look for him either.
I don't know. There's like there's a whole group of them. There's like 5 ETs.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, though, that he's in it.
Just because that means canon. And then that, of course, whenever he freaks out when he sees the kid dressed as Yoda in E.T., is because he recognizes Yoda. He's like, hey, it's Yoda. Oh my gosh.
It's
what
that
is Yoda
guy.
doing on Earth?
Exactly.
I haven't seen E.T. in so many years.
Yeah, when they go trick-or-treating in broad freaking daylight in that movie. That always, like, when I was a kid, I was like, why are they trick-or-treating? It's like 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's like the sun is clearly up in the sky while they're trick-or-treating. But yeah, they walk across the street and they see a kid dressed as Yoda. And he's like, "Wah!" It freaks out that the kid dressed as Yoda. Now it all makes sense.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
But I thought it was good. And I liked how he manipulated Padme so easily. Oh, he tricked her so easily. You could see how easily he's just pulling her strings and she falls for it 100%.
Yeah, Ian McDiarmid knows what movie he's in, and he knows he knows that I'm
whirling.
Yeah, he's like a campy villain. Not in this one so much, maybe the other ones, but
he's definitely still pretty campy in this one. He's like very obviously bad. If you didn't know that he was the bad guy, you'd still be like, man, this guy's shady. Like there's something up with this guy.
He leans in close, whispers in their ear. Whispers in your ear.
Now watch the bureaucrats, the ones who are really in charge.
Right.
They go to work. The Chancellor will fold, and then the Chancellor folds, and he's like, but then at the end he's like, well, I've been elected Chancellor. I really want, a surprise, but a welcome one, right?
Exactly.
Right? And then he's like, so anyway, not anything. I can't do anything for Naboo, but it's good that I'm the Chancellor now, right? And he's like, yeah,
I like that part.
Yeah, that's really what happens. He's like kind of shocked. He's like, oh, you're gonna go back to Naboo, huh? And then she walks out, and he almost smiles.
Yeah, he does. He does a great job as an actor in this, though.
Yeah,
I really enjoy his performance.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
great in all. Yeah, he's great in all 3 movies. And like I said, he knows that he's in. He knows it's the campy serial adventure, and that you better have a good mustache twirling villain. Yeah, like
I mean, I think I really appreciate Palpatine more because of like Clone Wars.
Oh,
makes me appreciate.
Yeah, he's good in Clone Wars.
Yes.
Too. Something I just was thinking about, I noticed because I watched that scene today when he gets elected, or not when he gets elected, but after she does the vote of no confidence, he's saying who the candidates are, and they say, or not him, someone else is, says Bail Organa of Alderaan and so of Chandrilla. Chandrilla, now we know from watching Andor, is Mon Mothma's planet.
Oh.
Yeah, and I thought it would have been a really easy. They could have said Mon Mothma of Chandrilla, but they don't. They say some other person.
Well, Mon Mothma was supposed to be, I think I brought this up in Andor, but she was supposed to be in Revenge of the Sith.
She was. They filmed the scene. They cut her out.
Yeah.
Her scene was deleted, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
Which, again, but that's a cool touch that they kind of, like there was something there. I mean, maybe
Alderaan and Chandrilla at the center of politics.
Yeah,
that's cool,
and of course, Bail Organa's in the next movie, but yeah,
plays a big part in the movie too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you have the pod racing we talked about. You have everything with the gambling where he frees Anakin but doesn't free his mother, and then that leads
to uses the Force to cheat.
Right.
And then you have when they go back you see the Jedi Council, you see Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu, you have Yoda, you have them be like, we can't train him, he's too old. Yet Qui-Gon's like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So, and then just because Qui-Gon dies, they agree to it.
He doesn't say that actually, though. It's interesting. I thought that too.
Well,
he agrees. He says very well. He doesn't argue too much. And then he just tells Anakin, yeah, you're not going to be a Jedi. Anyway, stay close to me and watch everything I do. Is what he tells him. But yeah, they go before the council. Right, they go before the council. They interview Anakin, and Mace Windu's holding it's doing like the little ESP card thing.
Yeah.
And Anakin's just like, as soon as it flashes, like a boat, a ship, a speeder, blah blah blah, like immediately. And you can tell like Mace Windu's like, oh, all right, this kid, yeah. But then it all comes down to like, oh, we can't train you because you're angry because your mom you miss your mom. And it's like, man, y'all have really got a bad, like, you can tell this kid is incredibly powerful. What exactly do you think is going to happen if you don't train him?
Right.
Like, you either need to train him or kill him. You can't just, like, let him loose, right?
I mean, don't you understand that if you don't train someone, they just won't know what to do, right? Like, yeah, that's all that works.
It's...
Like, in superhero stuff, they won't become a villain.
And it's like the villain from The Incredibles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what happens.
I mean, the Jedi Council is so like.
Well, it's interesting because Mace Windu, whenever they reveal, whenever they give the report and they talk about the Darth Maul, they're like, could this be the Sith? And then Mace Windu's like, I don't think the Sith would be operating. We would know. He says that. He says, I think we. Yeah, he does. He says we would be able to sense it. And Yoda goes, the dark side, hard to see it is.
Right.
And Mace Windu's like, okay, like I like it because Mace Windu like defers to Yoda immediately. It's like it's like, okay, yeah, like sure, Yoda's right. I mean, I'm not going to argue with Yoda. He's like 800 something years old at this point. So or 900. I guess he's how old is he when he dies? He just says 900, right?
Yeah, so he's like 870 years old or whatever.
Yeah, or he was older than 900 when he died. And he was just rounding off. Yeah, I was trying to remember if he said exactly how old, but
900 years. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, with 900 years you reach, yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I like that whole thing, but it was dumb. And then, Qui-Gon is like, well, I'll train him then, and he'll be my apprentice. And they go, a Padawan you already have. And he's like, I know, Obi-Wan can be a Jedi. And they're like, Yoda's like, I think our own council we will keep on who can and cannot be a Jedi. And then he's like, no, for real, he's good. I mean, he's hot-headed and still needs training and all. He's hot-headed and has a hard time knowing how to listen to the Force, but
but he's ready.
But he can do it. It's kind of the way. But I think he's skilled or he's capable. That's what he says. He's capable.
And he proves it after he kills Darth Maul. So hey.
Yeah, so they go ahead and make him. It's like, all right, well, you killed someone. You got mad and killed someone, so you can be a Jedi now. But
you use one of the senses you're not supposed to use, hate, anger. But hey, here you go. We'll grant you master. Or just Jedi Knight probably, but still.
I guess. I mean, Anakin calls him master.
But that's because he's his master. Like Ahsoka calls Anakin master, and
that's true.
Spoiler: he's not a master.
that always like bugged me a little bit in Clone Wars, actually.
we grant you the council, but we don't give you rank of master.
Well, no, I just said Ahsoka calls him master when he's still a Padawan.
Wasn't he a Jedi Knight?
Oh, I guess he's a knight by Clone Wars, isn't he? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because you have to be to have a Padawan, I'm assuming. We'll get there later. But
that was my whole point. Is that according to the movies, there's no reason for Anakin would have had a Padawan by Clone Wars, but they wanted to give a young insert character for the children to relate to.
I mean, this is off topic to this, but I think having Ahsoka makes complete sense because having Ahsoka and having all the things that happened to her show why he goes to the dark side because of everything they did. If you don't have her and you don't have her getting, but pretty much, she becomes a fugitive at one point because they blame her for a crime without investigating enough. Like all that stuff, I feel like leads to what happens in Revenge of the Sith, but without it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We'll get there in a few minutes.
Ahsoka's a great character too. So, but
yeah. And they don't mention it at all in that movie for some reason. So weird, huh? That's another story. But okay, I think some of the things we hadn't mentioned. Okay, when they do return back to the planet, you have after we talked about the Darth Maul, you have all the soldiers fighting. You have the Gungan War, where they have the whole huge battle where they fight the robots, which is let's sell toys.
I think the definitely of these three battles, the lightsaber duel is the most interesting. I feel like the ending of this movie is pretty weak of the prequels.
Yeah,
I do think it's the weakest. Because I can't get the Gungan stuff. All right, it's interesting because it's different, but then the space battle is just kind of like every other Star Wars space battle. It doesn't give anything new to me.
No, the fact that
it's a bad space battle. It's too chaotic.
Yeah.
It's too much CGI. That is something also we didn't talk about yet that I wanted to mention. Is one of my main gripes with this movie is that everything is like shiny and futuristic looking.
That's
and
true.
That's not Star Wars. That's just not what Star Wars is. One of the charms of Star Wars is how everything is kind of retro and junky and it's not. It doesn't have to be. It's like, well, the rebellion, all their stuff is like busted because they're like scrappy rebellion. All right, sure, but then you got like the Empire stuff looks like super industrial and boxy and all that.
Yeah.
It's not busted, but it's still, everything's very industrial. I don't even know where to put it, but in this, everything's like super smooth looking. Everything's just very smooth and rounded and chrome.
Yeah.
A lot of chrome, right?
Probably because early CGI and just what Lucas was going for.
But it is only the Naboo, I guess. So I guess it's fine. You can say, okay, well, it's because the Naboo. That's like a Naboo thing. Okay, but I still don't like it.
I kind of like the design of the ships, like the Chrome ship and then the Naboo starfighters. I like that they kind of.
I do like them. I like them. I don't think they fit into Star Wars. Is the thing. I do like.
Yeah.
I guess they kind of do. The Naboo starfighter does kind of have like a somewhat of a similarity to like the cloud car, the Bespin cloud cars a little bit from Empire, like a similar kind of like aesthetic to it.
I really like those.
I don't mind some things being new, I guess. I know what you mean, though. It doesn't have that same lived-in quality, and it may be because it's CG as opposed to stock models, or it could be just the design was such that they wanted to look different.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that same quality. Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's fine, and it even makes narrative sense. It just it doesn't have that quality that you like in a Star Wars.
I mean, I like the design of the droid. Or sorry, what do you call it? The droid command ship. Like that's an interesting design. Like it looks. Yeah. It's a circular. It's kind of asymmetrical.
But the concept behind the droid command ship is also kind of dumb because like we've been seeing droids in Star Wars for forever, and this is the first time that we've been like, all right, but these droids, they're remote control.
Right. Because in Star Wars, you have to blow up something at the end.
Right.
So they needed something to blow up. And I don't get why, when there was a blockade, there was like 100 of these ships. And suddenly there's still a blockade, but all the other ships have left. And now there's only the one in orbit.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that one ship is like the mothership?
Well, why not have like a couple dozen other ones around just in case something like this happens?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's no reason other than you don't want the heroes too overmatched. There's no other reason to like have all the big blockade end.
I mean, there are so many freaking giant ships up there when they show them escaping and then when they start the fight. Yeah. But I guess the one ship controls everything, or that one ship controls the army. I never really got that. Like, what's supposed to be happening?
The one ship controls the droid army, but I guess the other ones are just the same size of ship and everything. So why not just have a bunch of them there?
Yeah, that each control a little bit of the army, so that way if you were to destroy one, your whole army's only part of your army's done.
Yeah, so that's why to me it's lazy. It's like it's very lazy. Like if we blow up this one ship because we have to blow up something at the end of a Star Wars movie, then everything will be solved and we can have a big celebration. So I mean, even when I was a kid, I was like, ugh, I was underwhelmed by this battle.
I never thought about that till just now, by the way.
Well, see, this is the burden of me. Yes, I'm 34 too, and this is what I thought about. What did my life come to? What does my life come to?
My complaint was the fact that it's a kid that does it, that doesn't know how to fly and just gets on the ship and just randomly starts shooting.
Got so many midichlorians.
Okay, that makes sense. Right.
No, I mean it's kind of funny the way it happens. I always have thought it's kind of funny in Star Wars where it's like, all right, we can't shoot this thing because it's we got to break through the shields, but we could just fly straight through it. That'll work. And it's in this movie specifically, like it's not because you think Return of the Jedi, they've got to take out the shields before they can fly into it. Yeah. This one, he just accidentally flies into their hangar bay.
Yeah. And then blows up the entire ship.
Also accidentally. He's shooting at the droids and he's like, take this, and he presses the missiles and it fires like, whoa. It's also
okay. My guess for the force field is with the Death Star, it's a force field that's not letting things in. Where this is a force field at a ship to let ships in and out, so it's more of like an air barrier type thing.
I guess, but they're trying to shoot it. They're like shooting at it, and they're like, we can't get through the shields. They say that while they're shooting.
Well, then they're just fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I got.
It's just dumb. I mean, it's fun, but it's not. Yeah. But the thing about it, I think the worst thing about it is that it's intercutting with Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
So it's taking us away from the best part of the movie to cut to a mediocre space battle.
Right.
And also a pretty mediocre, gun battle.
Yeah, with the Gungan stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
You're thinking about when they're in the castle.
Oh, yeah. Well, when they're in
the castle. Yeah.
God.
And they capture Padme, and then fake, Keira Knightley comes like, you don't have me yet. You don't have me yet, Viceroy. And then just walks up, pulls out a gun, says her quip, and then shoots 2 droids, and then runs off before anyone thinks to shoot at her. Because, droids are famously, have slow reaction time. Robots and all that. And then, while, racist caricatures are like, go get them, Padme runs over to the throne, sits there, types in a code to open the armrest to pull 2 pistols out, calls her captain, throws him a gun, and then they both stand up and shoot the droids. And it's a long, it's a badly choreographed scene.
Yeah.
And so you're cutting between 3 things you don't want to watch during the best scene in the movie. I do think the Gungan stuff, though, is not bad. I like the idea that they have these balls that short out electronics.
Yeah, it's different.
It is. It's different.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's kind of dumb, but Jar Jar jumps. He knocks one down and then jumps up and down on it. They're like, yeah, take that, and then he kicks it, and it gets wrapped around his foot. And then he jerks his foot to the side, and it accidentally shoots one. So then he starts purposely shooting them by kicking his foot in different directions. And it's like, the gun is just accidentally going off. Okay, whatever.
Right. And here's the problem. That's funny because Jar Jar's clumsy, and,
yeah,
and he does that stuff. But then when Anakin does it, you have a second hero who's clumsy and blows up something else by accident.
Right.
I assume because you don't want the kid to look like he likes blowing up people on a ship or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. And we see
because there are people on the ship that aren't just
we see them die in a fire.
Right. Yeah.
It shows them consumed by flames when it blows up. It's not necessary. It was not necessary. It shows them and just fire washing over them. It's like Terminator 2 when she's viewing the future. But anyway,
it's some horrid stuff.
But I do like when Jar Jar runs to dive under the wagon full of the balls, and then the wagon goes and takes off, and he's like, and he jumps on the back and ends up causing it to open, and then it falls. The balls roll down the hill and take out a ship. It's
like Looney Tunes, It
is very Looney Tunes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they sacrifice so many Gungans, too, the idea that they're just like, well, we know we're going to lose a lot of you, but bye.
But it's to save their planet. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They know what they're getting into.
I guess whenever I see the whole planet's, I always wonder to myself, aren't there going to be aren't there other civilizations on a planet, or just really just, I know Star Wars is just one thing on every planet, but then again, Star Trek's the same, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think far enough in the future, you have one world government, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's actually kind of unique.
It is kind of unique, although I think the lore is that the humans were not native and the Gungans were native. But the Nabooians were colonized maybe 10,000 years ago or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But so that's why there's kind of hostility, because they know the humans are not technically native to the planet.
That makes sense.
But that's not spelled out in the movie.
No, yeah, but it would make sense, because otherwise, how do you have 2 completely different, intelligent, races?
Evolving on a planet. Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
I mean, you have another planet. You have the Mon Calamari and the squid people that evolve in that.
But they're more similar, I would say. One's a mammal.
Yeah, you're right. They're both. Yeah.
One's an mammal. One's whatever Gungans are.
Amphibians.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we have the final lightsaber battle as well, which is great. We've all said that was great.
So good.
Duel of the Fates, amazing. Best song, the best music to come out of this movie. Probably come out of the prequel trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably one of the best scenes too. Definitely top 3 scenes of the prequel.
Oh, I think it's the number one. Yeah, for sure.
You know, when they're zooming in everybody's faces with the lightsaber, that's gold. When the chorus starts up and it just zooms in everybody's faces. So good.
Yeah. And when Darth Maul blocks both their lightsabers at once.
Yeah.
And it like zooms in on his face. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. That's good camera work. So
it's good stuff.
There's good stuff in here. It's just right at the end.
A lot of good force using of them. You know, like, I mean, he straight up like kicks. He just does a straight side kick into Obi-Wan's chest, and he goes flying. He falls like 4 or 5 stories, hits a catwalk, bounces off that catwalk, falls down another one, and then he manages to just like he pulls himself up, like he obviously force pulls himself up because he's like jumps up to his feet and then leaps up back up to where they're at. It's pretty cool. And right after he kicks Obi-Wan like that, Qui-Gon just viciously backhands Darth Maul right in the face and knocks him down. It's pretty cool. Like it's great because they're doing stuff that we never could have shown in the original trilogy, you know?
Yeah.
Like you remember, you know, like in the first movie where they're literally swinging around reflective tape,
right.
You know, they have to be very like wooden because it's not going to look right unless they're standing at the exact right angle. And then in the next one, in Empire, you've got what I would say is probably the second best Star Wars duel ever is Vader and Luke on Bespin.
Yeah, I would agree.
But even then, you know, it's still pretty wooden for the most part, partly because Vader's a big cyborg man. But you know, and then in Return of the Jedi, you get, you know, Vader, you know, kicks Luke down some stairs at one point. But in this one, I mean, Darth Maul's flipping around. He's throwing a snap kick into someone's face so he can attack the other person. It's such a dynamic, well choreographed scene. I've watched it so many times. I remember when I was in college, and it was before YouTube existed. One of the first like videos that I like pirated and had burned on a CD was the Duel of the Fates duel.
Yeah.
And it was done from Thailand. So it had like Thai subtitles on the bottom. But yeah.
That's cool.
All right.
I love it. And then, so Qui-Gon dies and we have the funeral pyre because we established at the end of Return of the Jedi that we burn Force users. So then that's what we're going to be doing.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's, I think I'm fine with it. And it's good. It's great. It's whatever. I feel a little bit like there's things that happen in Star Wars, the original trilogy, that were kind of incidental. And then the prequels and the sequels all feel like they have to slavishly just stick to those things.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Like the lightsaber he dropped from Bespin that all of a sudden randomly was in Maz's hands. Yeah, like that.
Well, yeah, that's really bad. But I just think even the idea of that we burn him on a pyre because Luke randomly decided to burn Vader on a pyre. It's not like Luke had any way to know that Jedi did that, right?
No, because all their stuff is erased from existence.
It was,
right.
I mean, he's basically
unless Yoda happened to tell him, right?
Right. Right before
we burn our dead, Luke.
Except for some people disappear.
No, it's dead we burn, Luke. The dead we burn. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely like, oh, they did this in Return of the Jedi. Well, they better do it in this one too.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a symptom of a larger problem, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's continual callbacks.
And then well, speaking of which, then we have to have the big parade at the end, the big medal ceremony.
I do want to say one thing before.
Yes.
I do really like the scene where he says, which one did we kill, the master or the apprentice? And then it just kind of focuses on Palpatine's face for a second. I like that scene because it is very much like, this is the guy who's the real villain. But I feel like a movie today would have done it. I feel like it's kind of subtle too, because they never have a scene where Palpatine like takes off his mask and like be as evil. He's like basically fooling everybody the whole movie, and you never see him except for that one scene. You never get a hint that it's really Palpatine.
Right.
Except for the name.
Yes, I mean unless you happen to see the other Star Wars movies, but yes, I do like that. I do like that little focus it has on him. I always did.
Totally.
I there's a lot of stuff I enjoy. Like I think in this time, if I watched this movie twice today, like the whole part where like I never caught before, where he's like, "Well, I can't help you, Padme. It's going to take forever for me to get, like, you know, he didn't give a shit about the planet. He just used her to get control." Right. Then he's like, "Oh, well."
Right.
So I like all that, like where I love him, the fact how much he orchestrates in this. I mean, not even really just movies, but everything with the prequel stuff is just, mwah. But again, I'm including Clone Wars, so which I shouldn't be. but I am.
So, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, or as Peter did, it's a convoluted plan.
Yeah.
So really, his plan, it's a convoluted plan that was clearly made up as they went along with the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this movie, the plan mostly makes sense.
Yeah, he's just trying to become the chancellor, and he's using his planet. I mean, but it never explains why the Trade Federation are listening to him.
Because he presumably is he's helping them somehow.
Yeah, I think presumably he's like, I've got connections. I don't know how it began. He was like, oh, I got connections in the Senate, because you assume he doesn't tell them, oh, my name is Palpatine.
But he does tell them he has connections in the Senate. They say, like, is that legal? And he's like, I will make it legal.
Yeah, I love that. Is that legal? You guys care? Like, why does he care at this point?
But I just love that. Is that legal?
You'd wonder, you wonder if these guys, I wonder if the guy we keep talking to on a hologram is the same guy who's the president of space, He looks kind of similar, but maybe
it sounds incredibly similar.
Right. Maybe it's just a coincidence. No, I mean, why do they never get into that? Because in real life, you would see through that. But it's a fantasy show.
Yeah, I mean, it's Clark Kent Superman situation.
Right, exactly. But yes, they have the big celebration at the end. They
hold the big glowing orb.
I like this.
Whatever that is.
I like the music, too.
Yeah, it's a good music.
It's the Emperor's theme. Did you know that? It's the Emperor's theme just sped up a bit.
Oh,
yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you listen to it again, Mike, you'll hear it. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes, ho, 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 ho. Anyway.
I like upbeat ending in movies. Yeah. I think that's why I like Solo a lot, and I like this movie because they're both, and Return of the Jedi and New Hope, because they're all upbeat.
Yeah, it is upbeat.
Wait, Solo an upbeat ending?
I think so.
He kills his best friend and goes off on his own.
Oh no, I love Solo.
His mentor.
But then they fly off into the sunset or whatever.
I really want to watch Solo again, because I haven't watched them since Rise of Skywalker came out. I watched everything, just about, except for Return of the Jedi for some reason, but I look forward to getting back to them all.
Yeah, I like Solo, but it's definitely in the middle, around the same area as this movie for me. It's above this movie probably, but not a lot above. But
anyway, I think we're just kind of digesting the final elements of the movie.
Yeah. My wife handed me about how my mailbox is too close. There's too much snow in front of it, and I have to plow.
Oh no!
Seems like a good time to wrap it up then, maybe.
Well, I was like, what the hell is this? I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm sitting here in the dark, and I'm like, I couldn't see because I have all the lights on me where I'm recording, and then all of a sudden there's a wife, and then
I've just been handed a bulletin. My mailbox
we need your help. Your letters want to provide you with a timely, regular delivery, which you deserve. However, your carrier is having trouble reaching your mailbox. He cannot maintain the timely delivery of your mail and do it safely. He's expected to repeatedly dismount his vehicle, cross ice, or climb snowbanks.
Oh no!
There's a lot more, but that's where I'm going to stop.
No, that's
this is like an opening crawl.
I know. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs about how I need to fix that. So I know what I'm doing tomorrow. Woohoo!
Well, I finished my beer, so I think we're ready. We're at the end of the podcast.
All right, let's go to Shelf Stacker Box. And I'll go. I'm going to put this on the shelf because I still love this movie. I enjoyed this movie when I was younger. I enjoyed this movie when I watched it a few years ago. I still really like this movie. Even though I only halfway paid attention the 2 times I watched it today, I still just really like this movie. I think it's just for me, it's just a really good film. I mean, there's issues. Never disagree with that. There's lots of issues, but I'm going to put it on the shelf, and it's one of my favorite Star Wars films. What about you, Peter?
You know what? I'm hemming and hawing between 2, but I'm going to say put it in the box. If you're a Star Wars fan, you should watch it, but there's no real reason to revisit it unless you're a diehard fan, I think. It's kind of clunky. There's parts of it that are good, and there's a lot more parts of it that are just mediocre, and there's a couple parts that are really terrible. And for me, it's the worst of the prequels. And I can't.
Oh.
I know.
You're telling me you like sand that is rough and coarse?
I will. When we get to Attack of the Clones, I will defend Attack of the Clones.
Ooh, I can't wait for this.
I don't think it's a good movie either, but I do think it has more elements that I like in it. So Phantom Menace goes in the box for me.
Okay. Now I can't wait to hear Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
All right. And what about you, Kerry?
I'll do the stack. I liked it a lot better than I thought I was going to. I liked it a lot better than I remembered liking it, but I still don't think it's a good movie. I think it's I think it's a mediocre movie. It's fine. It's better than some of the bad ones. I'd watch it before I'd watch, the Rise of Skywalker or Episode 3 or Episode 2 or The Last Jedi. I don't know. It's probably on a similar level to Last Jedi to me, but I think it's better than The Last Jedi. I think that's even worse. But though not for the reason most of the internet feels, but I don't know. Yeah, it's very it's like the 7th or 8th best Star Wars movie, and that's not a high bar because I really think there's only 5 or 6 good Star Wars movies. Or I actually think there's only 4 good Star Wars movies, but still, it will say stack. Right? I don't think I'm going to watch it again for a long time, but I wouldn't throw it away. I wouldn't throw it away. It's got some good bits here and there.
And next time you hear all 3 of us, you're going to hear us talk about Attack of the Clones.
I've begun these Clone Wars have.
You know what? Maybe I'll have the same experience. I'll watch it and be like, why did I hate this? This is good. I doubt it, but maybe.
I doubt it too.
I think,
there are
in minute 10 of the Padme Anakin courtship scene, you will regret your decision. But
yeah,
I mean, maybe if you turn off the subtitles, mute the TV, and you can't tell what they're saying, you'll enjoy it because you won't have to hear.
Then put on Casablanca, and then
you want to hear. You're soft. I like soft.
During that whole scene, you just play the raindrop falling on my head.
Yes. See, there's a good love montage. It's simple and it's done in a couple of minutes.
You just ignore everything they're saying and all the rapey stuff he's saying and all the real because God, he gets so fucking creepy in there. It's bad.
It does. Yeah. It's bad stuff.
Oh, okay. And if
right.
you want. And if you want to hear more Star Wars, we'll see if I can, how many I read. Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, Comic 41, Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Film 37, Obi-Wan Kenobi, TV 5, Empire Strikes Back, Film 32, Star Wars The Last Command, Comic 37, A New Hope, Film 29, Dark Force Rising, Comic 36, Book of Boba Fett, TV 4, Star Wars Heir of the Empire, Comic 34, The Mandalorian Season 1, TV 2, Dark Empire 2, Comic 30, Dark Empire 1, Comic 27, Force Unleashed, Episode 115, The Mandalorian Season 2, TV 1, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Episode 87, Knights of the Republic, Episode 69. You know what? I'm getting tired. Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, Episode 48, and Star Wars Holiday Special, Film 6. And
you could have a web page where you just say list the Star Wars episode.
Yeah, I do actually. I don't really have much of a website for this show at all. I really should make one day, but I don't care. I care, but I don't want to do it myself.
I care.
Or pay someone to do it. So if I do kind of want to pay someone, but the show doesn't make enough money to make me want to pay somebody. So we'll see. Someday, when the show makes money, I'll definitely hire because I need to make a real website, like a good one, and then I don't have to do what I'm doing every time. You can go see the notes. I can just plug the page in the bottom. All right, that's everything. Peter, where can people find you at?
You can find my book called The Fifth Civilization on Amazon. It's available on Kindle or in a physical format. It's part of a trilogy, and it's a really great sci-fi adventure. So check out The Fifth Civilization wherever books are sold. Right,
and you cannot get it in Amazon Canada, by the way.
Oh, no.
It's not on Amazon.ca, but you can ship it from regular Amazon to Canada. I found out. You pay $20, but you can ship it, which is actually a lot cheaper than what FedEx would be. So
I'm going to get on the phone to Justin Trudeau immediately.
Okay. Because I tried to buy an Amazon CA for somebody. I was like, and I thought of the Scott Pilgrim joke. I'm like, what's Amazon Canada? What's Amazon.ca? Amazon.ca. Okay, thanks. And I did. And it worked. I went to Amazon.ca. Okay, so... And Kerry, where can people find you at?
Hey, I'm Kerooseta, Kerooseta on Twitch. I repair and modify video game consoles and also just kind of throw it on anytime I'm playing something on my PS5. So you watch me play video games. The Dark Souls, by the time this airs, probably not. I'll say the Dark Souls community event starts today, so I'll be streaming a lot of that. But
this will be early February.
Okay, well, it won't be, not that. But I'll be doing something.
Okay. All right, and if you enjoyed this episode, we have over 400 other episodes of the show. So go check out our giant fucking catalog of shit that we cover. We do comics, movies, TV shows, games. I do everything. Everything I feel like doing. So, and I can find people that want to do it with me. So definitely go check out that giant catalog. You can find everything on Podbean if you can't find them, what's on Spotify or iTunes. Also want to give us all my awesome intro and outro courtesy of Helena at Hell Hasphere. You can follow her on TikTok. And one of yourself, my buddy Bill Tucker, who did the MCU movies with me, started his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at 40s. Definitely go check him out. If you want to support the show, we do have Patreon. For as little as $1, you can vote in our Patreon polls we have every month. So definitely help out the show. And if you put more in money, I'll advertise you whatever your product is. So go do that too. You can sponsor the show. And also, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. And we have a Discord if you want to chat with us. Please go join our Discord. You'll see a link in the show note. I think that's everything I need to say. We will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
What country?
Bye.